Hey everybody, I am Mona Lisa with Parents with Incarcerated Children, and we are here again to talk to you about mental health and mental awareness. And with me is Mayumi McKinley, psychotherapist, founder of Epiphany Counseling, Consulting, and Treatment Services, and Dr. Dominique Rimaker, clinical psychologist. I am the founder of Parents with Incarcerated Children, and that's about all I have for you. Okay, these ladies have brought to you all of their talents, all of their skills, and we are so grateful to them because they believe in giving back. And I want you to know that it is without a doubt that we are beyond grateful because so many of us have so many things that we need to deal with, but we just for some odd reason don't have the guts to go out and search for it, to go out and find the help that we need. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to keep bringing you the help that you need through these videos. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about today is the society's, it's like a tongue tire here, society's social stigma on those who have loved ones who are incarcerated. And essentially what that means is how does society look at us, you, when you have someone who's incarcerated? How do they perceive you as a parent who now has a child who's incarcerated? How do they think about us as a whole? It's been my experience on many levels. I've had good experiences and I've had bad experiences. I've had really bad experiences where people have said there has to be something wrong with you, Mona Lisa, or her dad, or the way she was raised, because there's no way that she would end up being being an armed robber and doing a crime that makes no sense to a normal family. Who turns out to do robbery if you've come from a family that are considered to be privileged? Who does that? There has to be something wrong with you and your family. And so I've been judged like that. I've also been given lots of love and been told that, we support you, we understand you, and we know that you've done the best that you can do. But at the same time, it was her choice, and we don't even judge her. We realize that because she was on some form of a drug, that she was out of her right mind. But she's got to do the time because she did the crime. But we'll be there to support her the entire time, and we're not going to judge you. So I've had all kinds of different things. So, ladies, my question to you is, why is it that society as a whole perceives that there's something wrong with the family members when their loved ones commit a crime and end up serving time? Is that a mental illness? Is that some sort of mental thought process that is off, on, or what? Why is this happening, do you think?
I think there's a social stigma that looms over families that have an incarcerated loved one. And I think it's the ignorance of society that, they don't realize their neighbor, their coworker also has a loved one incarcerated. The United States has 25% of their citizens in prisons and jails. So it's not like you don't know someone incarcerated, but when you think of jail, people assume only bad people go to jail. All if you're in jail, you're automatically guilty. There's no innocent people in jail. Um, the drugs didn't make you do it. Oh, of course you're saying you were out of your right mind. That just so you don't have to go to jail. These are very common myths that people think about when they hear someone has gone to jail. So when you're a parent of someone, they automatically assume that you didn't provide, you didn't teach them right from wrong, you didn't educate them on how to follow the law right. So these are, I just say, ignorance on society's part.
I agree with what you're saying in terms of just the lack of understanding. And as we talked about in previous videos, just people look for someone or something to blame when they don't understand something. So as opposed to trying to gain an understanding of what happened or help me let me understand this, so maybe I can influence someone, I can help someone, I can have a better understanding so to be impactful in the world, people go into blaming and shaming others. And in society, that's just what we do when we don't understand it. And you have a lot of closed-minded individuals. If they don't understand it, they shun it. You're not right. They don't look. Everybody's one decision, right? everybody can be one decision away from your life changing. And instead of coming from a place of being humble and just understanding that in human beings, everyone makes mistakes, you just didn't get caught. Or you had someone watch, so I don't think it's fair. People are very judgmental. And like she said, society's ignorance is everybody is one judgment. I'm sure everybody can reflect on their lives and think of one situation that if somebody hadn't came and helped them or saved them, or if they didn't turn and look the other way or something, they could be in a similar situation or have a record of some kind. So I think a lot of it is just the wanting to blame someone, the lack of understanding, and being very, very judgmental. And I feel like as a society, we need to take a step back. And by all means, I'm not condoning the murderers of the world and people who have really made really, really poor choices, things of that nature. But I'm definitely saying, just because a person made a poor choice doesn't mean it stems back to it being the family's fault.
I agree with that.
The family did something wrong, and being open to understanding that.
Right, I agree with that. Like, when I went to jail undercover on that show 60 Days In, that aired on A&E, I found that there were three different types of people, and it was very eye-opening for me, because I want to be honest and I want to admit to everyone that before my daughter got incarcerated, I was absolutely one of the most judgmental people you would ever want to be around as it relates to those who were incarcerated. I remember when my daughter brought home somebody in school, and she said, "Oh, Mom, guess what? Her dad just got home after being gone for 20 years." And I was like, "Really?" And what was he was in the service or something? She goes, "No, he was in prison." I was like, "Oh my God, you can never be around that person anymore. She's not allowed over here. I don't want you going over there." I just went right into judgment, and never realizing that someday this too would hit my home, and I would have to think about what all I just did, said, and experienced. But getting back to while I was in, I learned that there are three different types of people. I learned that that are incarcerated. There are those who make mistakes, who are going to learn from what they did, and they're going to rehabilitate, come out, and never do it again. There are those who are absolute criminals, who will probably continuously create or commit crimes, will never change, never learn from their mistakes. Well, they're probably not mistakes. They become what I call career criminals, and they're more than likely designed and destined to be in a place like jail or prison. And then there are those who are completely innocent, those who have never committed the crime but just are falsely accused. There are three different types of people in prison and in jails, and this is something that I feel like society needs to first of all become aware of, and not necessarily sit back and be so judgmental. So judgmentalism, is something I want to talk about, because that's obviously a mental thing. It's something that you create within your own mind, and then you force out onto onto society, into the earth realm.
I would add one more type, and it's probably more. I misquoted earlier. The U.S. accounts for 4% of individuals that are incarcerated. 25% of the world's prison system have individuals incarcerated. But 1 in 3 individuals have a mental health disorder. So we also have individuals that are in prisons that shouldn't be, that should most likely be at the state hospital level to provide mental health services. That not necessarily, yeah, you did the crime, but you might have not been competent or in your right mind in that moment, and you probably are in prison for the wrong reason. Though you committed a crime, but you need mental health services that a prison jail cannot provide. And that's the work I do.
And most people don't understand when you say stuff like that, because I've actually said this, and this is what's come back. Well, what are you trying to say then? They just need to go to the crazy house and they can commit crimes and get away with it. They don't understand that, a mental health facility is also ran exactly like a jail and or a prison, and can be similar to that. It's just different services are provided when you're there. Am I correct in that assumption?
That is very correct. I work at a locked facility. You are not. They are not free to go into the public, and it's the difference is at a prison you get a sentence, right? And unless you do something wrong in there, you're going to get out in X amount of years. When you are when a judge declares that you go to a state level hospital to regain competency, or you were criminally insane and responsible for the crime, a judge is not so easily to send you back to society until you're no longer a danger to yourself and to others. There's no limit of years on that. You know, you might have received 5 years for that if you were competent or in your right mind. Um, However, you know, if you haven't taken the therapy services that you're supposed to be getting inside the state hospital serious, if you're still fighting, if you're still violent, you're adding time and time and time again. So it's not easy to just go to the crazy hospital and return back home.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
You might be there longer.
That's interesting. So back to the whole idea of judgmentalism. What would you ladies what would you ladies suggest, Mayumi especially, about how we overcome that? You know, how does society begin to think differently? Because, like you said, we only are one choice away from going in. I'm telling you, if they could see the half the things I did as a kid, I should be under the jail, and as well as some of the other people that I know. And you know, you guys can judge me. You can say what you want to say. I bet you if I had a magnifying glass or a rewind, I could press the rewind button on your life. The things that I would see and learn about. Ooh, 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 ooh. If you had only gotten caught. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say.
Yes, yes. And I think that's the main thing. I think I always tell people you can never say what you're not going to do. You can never say what you're not going to do. And I think a lot of people live in this not, oh goodness, he has a way of humbling us and bringing it back around. But I think you can never say what you're not going to do. And instead of coming from a place as a society of judgment and, oh, you don't fit into my moral system, my value system. So if you don't fit into my cookie cutter of what I think is right, or what I think is normal, because I don't think there is a normal, but normal, then you're wrong and something's wrong with you, versus coming from a place of understanding and trying to understand, okay, I totally don't get this person. I don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, but I can have compassion for what it is that they're going through. And I think that's the place we need to move towards, having compassion for one another. So instead of being judgmental about, oh, this person looks like this, acts like this, you know, is in jail because of this, coming from a place of, wow, that person must have really been going through something to make the choices that they've made. Or I don't know what that mother is going through. I can only imagine how it feels to have a child in prison. Let me see if there's a way that I can help. And just coming from a place of understanding versus judgment, because we're all different. We all have different life experiences, and we all experience things in a different manner. That's why you can have, you know, three people in the same family and they have a death and all three of them experience it different. So all of us, our perception of the world is based upon our own personal experiences and our view and our psyche and how we're made up. And so instead of coming from a judgmental, there's obviously something that this person sees differently. Let me gain a better understanding of how they sin, and maybe you can be that light of hope to that person. Maybe you can be that seed of knowledge that changes that person's perception versus standing back and just judging this person on what it is that they're doing.
I like what you said about never say never, because I was the first person that would always say, oh, I would never, ever, ever do anything wrong to go to jail. My family is never going to go to jail. We don't do jail. And not only did I do jail by choice, for the record, my daughter is now serving a 10-year sentence. So you're right, never say never, because you do not know what tomorrow holds. You do not know what the next minute holds.
And you don't know what people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what people are going through in their life. We're so quick to judge person. You don't know what that person's background is. Maybe it's easier to say it because I'm a therapist and I get to experience people here on the couch, but there is no look to different things that people's going through. I mean, you can categorize certain people in certain things, but you know, you have the most prominent people who look like they got it together that are going through things and been through things, and you have people who look like they've been through hell and they are going through things. So I think that there is no face to it, and just compassion is all I can say. Coming from a place of compassion and trying to understand versus shunning and kicking people on the outskirts.
Right, because
It's not fair.
whatever you judge, or however you judge a person, it will come back to you, and more than likely in 100-fold. And that's a spiritual law. You know, it's the law of reciprocity. That's what it's called. It's whatever you put out, it will come back to you. You know, and so I want to, you know, forewarn all of you guys, just like from my own experience, that you know how you judge people will come back to you. And I'm not condoning crime by any stretch of the imagination. I am not saying that my daughter is some innocent flower, but without a doubt, she committed the crime. I'm not proud of that. she feels much remorse for any of the victims that she encountered. And without a doubt, I am terribly sorry for what has happened and what she did. However, we have to move forward. We have to move forward, and we have to find a way to release all of the judgment that we've put on ourselves and that others have put on us. And we've got to find a healthy manner and healthy thought process to help us to move forward. Because let's face it, all of these people who are incarcerated will come back out to our society, as we say it. You know, we all belong to this society. We all actually have a part that we must play in this society. And so we can't just put them in a box and say, stay in that box forever. And as a matter of fact, even though you served your debt to society, now we want you for the rest of your eternal life to serve this debt. That's wrong. That's wrong on every level. And if it were you or anyone that you know, you would not be in agreement with it, because you would want a second chance, just like you are constantly being given by your Almighty God, or whoever it is that you serve, or even your family members, or your husband, or your brother, your sister, your cousin. When you do something wrong, you want somebody to forgive you and give you another chance. You want somebody, like when we punish our children, we punish our children. We give them, we establish the punishment, we make them serve the punishment, and then we restore them back to who they were, and we give them more chances. We don't forever leave them in a state of punishment. That's all I'm saying here. We can't do and keep everyone punished for the rest of their eternal life. Right, ladies?
Right. I remember someone, it was this therapist, I don't know if it was a book I read, and he was saying, wouldn't we all be better off if we treated people like we treated our dogs? Because, they pee on the floor, they do this, they tear up the house, and you're mad for a second, and why did you do that? And you clean everything up, and then the next day they're there greeting you, and you're there with open arms
That is deep.
to rub them and welcome them in. But with people, we're so shut down. We're so averse to the things we don't understand. And I think if we all came from a place of compassion, I like what you said, not condoning behaviors, not praising behaviors that are wrong, but coming from a place of compassion, that if someone is making a decision that may not be in their best interest, that ultimately will hurt them versus help them, then having compassion for that person, and you may not understand, but they obviously have to be dealing with something. Maybe they're dealing with something on the inside, and it's not for us to blame anyone.
I agree, and I think society shouldn't, people in society shouldn't wait until they become a parent of an incarcerated loved one or a sibling of an incarcerated loved one to gain understanding. I think it should start now, and having compassion, understanding, and just researching, and getting to know, your neighbor. And I'm not saying literally your neighbor, but, your coworker, your friend. You don't know what people are going through and who they might have incarcerated. Just because I don't look like I have one incarcerated, I do have one incarcerated. What does a person look like?
Right.
And I think society needs a little bit more compassion. I think that is a good takeaway.
Absolutely. So we're almost out of time again. So if you guys want to reach out to us, Mayumi, give them your email.
I can be reached at Epiphany Talk Radio. That's EPIPHANY talkradio@gmail.com.
Doc.
I can be reached at dominiqueremaker5@gmail.com. That is DOMINIQUEREMAKER and the number 5@gmail.com.
And I can be reached at info@PWIC. I can't even get it right. info@pwicus.com. info@pwicus.com. I should change that because I can't even get it right. Anyway, you guys know how to find me. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Parents with Incarcerated Children. You can also find us on the web at pwicus.org. And if you are interested in sharing this video, it can only help society. It can only help you. It can only make us look good together. Let's come together and let's share these videos. Comment below. Tell us what you think. Let's start the conversation. That's what this is about. Starting the conversation. Don't be ashamed. Don't sit back and say, well, somebody else will talk about it. No, you talk about it. We need to come out of our shells. We need to talk about this, because if we don't start talking about it and we don't come together as a strong, united front, this will continue to happen. And I'm speaking of mass incarceration. I'm speaking of mental illness going undiagnosed, untreated, and people being incarcerated in the millions. There are 2.3 million people incarcerated today. And the face of incarceration is changing day by day. It is not just the Black man. It is not just the Black woman. It is not just the Latino man, the Latino woman. It's not just the white man. It's all of us. All of us are getting incarcerated. All of our families are being hit by this in one way, shape, or form because we don't understand as a society. We don't want to take the time to figure this out and come up with a solution that's viable for all of us. So I'm Mona Lisa. I'm the CEO of Parents with Incarcerated Children. I too have a daughter that's incarcerated, and I'm standing on behalf of you, on behalf of all of us, to come together as a united front as we continue to unveil mental illness, mental awareness, and mental well-being. So until we talk again, I want you to enjoy life, and remember, reach out, share this video with somebody. Take care.